Picture the tallest skyscraper in your city. Now picture fitting 40 of those floors, stacked one on top of the other, inside an underground cave. Not just fitting them, but having room to spare. Room for clouds, room for a jungle, room for rivers and waterfalls and weather, room for creatures that have never seen sunlight in their entire lives. That is not science fiction. That is a real place. It is in Vietnam, and scientists are still discovering things inside it that they genuinely cannot explain. This is the story of Son Doong, the largest cave on the face of the earth, and the extraordinary world that has been quietly existing inside it for millions of years, hidden under the jungle, completely cut off from the rest of life on this planet. Stay all the way through, because the deeper we go into this cave, the stranger it gets. And if this is the kind of content you want more of, subscribe right now. Deep within Vietnam's Phong Nha Bàng National Park lies something extraordinary. A cave so massive it could comfortably house a 40-story skyscraper. But what makes Son Doong Cave truly remarkable is that it has created its own miniature world, complete with a unique weather system and a thriving jungle ecosystem. Let us start with how this place was found, because the discovery story is almost as extraordinary as the cave itself. In 1991, a local man named Ho Khan, while exploring the dense jungles of Phong Nha Bàng National Park, stumbled upon a mysterious opening in the ground. It was emitting clouds and the sound of rushing water. He was unable to enter due to the steep descent, and the cave remained hidden for nearly 2 decades. Think about that for a moment. The largest cave in the world was found by a man who was out in the jungle looking for firewood and forest produce. He heard something. He felt something. A cold blast of wind rising up from the earth. The sound of an underground river echoing from somewhere far below. He looked over the edge and saw mist pouring up out of the darkness. And then he walked away because he had no rope, no light, and no idea that he had just found something that would make the entire scientific world stop and stare. It was 1990, and a sudden storm forced Håkon to find shelter in the forest. As he approached the cave entrance, he saw thick fog pouring out of the cave's mouth and heard the sound of rushing water from inside. He noted the location, but the jungle in that part of central Vietnam is dense and disorienting. He could not find the entrance again afterward. For nearly 20 years, this opening in the earth stayed hidden. It was not until 2009 that a team of British cavers from the British Cave Research Association, led by Howard and Deb Limbert, rediscovered the cave with Håkon's guidance. What they found exceeded all expectations. A subterranean world so vast, it could house an entire city block. When the British expedition team finally got inside and began measuring the passage, they could not believe the numbers they were getting. Son Doong currently measures a total of 38.5 million cubic meters. To put that in context, the main passage measures up to 200 meters high and 150 meters wide, with caverns large enough to fit an entire Boeing 747. A commercial airplane could fly through the main chamber and not touch the walls or the ceiling. With a ceiling soaring 200 meters high, a width of 150 meters, and stretching over 9 kilometers, Son Doong was officially recognized by Guinness World Records in 2013 as the world's largest cave. 9 kilometers of underground passage, 200 meters from the floor to the ceiling. These are not the measurements of a cave. They are the measurements of a canyon, except it is underground, sealed beneath hundreds of meters of solid rock and jungle. And now let us talk about what is inside this cave, because this is where it stops being just a matter of impressive size and starts becoming something genuinely unlike anything else on Earth. Son Doong is able to regulate its own temperature, humidity, and airflow, creating a living environment rarely seen anywhere else on Earth. Unlike the harsh climate of central Vietnam, temperatures inside the cave remain remarkably stable throughout the year. During summer, when temperatures outside can exceed 37 degrees Celsius, the cave stays cool at around 22 to 25 degrees. In winter, temperatures typically range between 17 and 22 degrees. The cave has its own climate, its own stable, self-regulating climate that barely changes with the seasons outside. While the jungle above bakes in the Vietnamese summer heat, the air inside remains cool and steady. And that is not even the most remarkable thing the cave does with its atmosphere. High humidity combined with airflow passing through the massive dolines also creates the unusual phenomenon of cloud formation inside the cave. Thin clouds often appear during the summer months, floating between towering rock walls and the rainforest growing beneath the dolines, creating an almost surreal landscape. Clouds forming inside a cave. Not mist, not fog, not condensation on the rocks, but actual cloud formations floating in the open air between the cave walls. When people see photographs of this for the first time, they assume they are looking at something digitally enhanced. They are not. The cave is simply so large and the conditions inside so perfectly set up that the same atmospheric physics that create clouds in the open sky above us are happening underground, inside a limestone chamber in central Vietnam. How does this happen? The cave has openings in its ceiling called dolines. These are sections where the cave roof collapsed hundreds of thousands of years ago, creating enormous natural skylights. The dolines created openings approximately 91 meters in diameter. Through these skylights, warm, humid air from the jungle above flows down into the cool cave interior. When warm, humid air meets cooler air, the moisture condenses. And in the vast open space of Sondong's main chambers, that condensation forms clouds that drift through the underground passage, sometimes thin and wispy, sometimes thick enough to reduce visibility. During periods of heavy rain, water pours through the dolines from the forest above, forming spectacular curtains of waterfalls that descend hundreds of meters into the cave. Waterfalls, falling hundreds of meters from the ceiling of the cave, down through the clouds, into the underground jungle below. Yes, the underground jungle. This is the part that makes people genuinely stop and struggle to believe what they are reading. Sondong has an underground jungle, a real one, with real trees. There are places where the cave ceiling collapsed around 500,000 years ago, creating dolines that allow sunlight to get into the cave, facilitating plants, mosses, algae, and other vegetation to grow. The biologists have found more than 200 species of plants living in Sondong, including herbal epiphytes, mosses, vines, shrubs, and large trees over 40 meters high. Trees 40 meters tall, growing underground in the middle of a cave. The dolines let in enough sunlight that over hundreds of thousands of years, a fully functioning rainforest ecosystem has established itself on the floor of the cave. The explorers who first entered this section named it the Garden of Eden. The dolines, nicknamed Watch Out for Dinosaurs and Garden of Eden, are filled with greenery so vibrant that explorers often compare them to prehistoric landscapes. Watch out for dinosaurs. That is what the cavers who first saw this place called it. Not as a joke, as an honest description of what the environment looks and feels like. Dense, ancient jungle, 500,000 years removed from the rest of the planet, growing in the light of natural skylights 200 meters underground. Monkeys come down through the dolines from the jungle above to feed. Birds navigate the columns of light from the surface to the floor. And in the darkness beyond the light of the dolines, something else entirely has been living. Biologists have recently identified over 7 new species of animals in Sondong, including fish, woodlice, millipedes, spiders, and scorpions. These species share common traits like a lack of eyes and transparent bodies, which are adaptations to the eternal darkness inside the cave. No eyes, transparent bodies. These creatures have been evolving in total darkness for so long that eyes became completely useless and were simply abandoned through evolution. The body pigmentation that gives animals their color, which in most species is partly a response to sunlight exposure, is also gone. They are essentially invisible animals, clear-bodied, sightless, navigating an underground world by touch and vibration and chemical sensing. In early 2025, a team from the Vietnam National Museum of Nature reported a new land snail species found inside the cave. This species represents a new entry for Vietnam's fauna and adds to the growing list of organisms recorded in the region. Other biodiversity surveys conducted between 2022 and 2024 documented additional insects, invertebrates, and updated bat species lists. Every time scientists go back in, they find something that was not in any catalog before. The cave is enormous enough that there are still sections that have barely been examined. As of 2022, after 32 years of surveying the region, expert teams have discovered, surveyed, and measured more than 404 caves with a total length of 220 kilometers. Although many have been found over the past 32 years, cave experts said that only about 30% of the Phong Nha Bang limestone massifs have been surveyed. 30%. The scientists who have been working in this region for over 3 decades have covered 30% of it. 70% of what lies beneath these mountains and this jungle is still unmapped, unstudied, unknown. Now let us go deeper into Sondong itself, because the geology of this place is as extraordinary as the life inside it. According to scientists, Sondong was formed over 2 million years ago through the erosion of limestone by an underground river. The limestone itself is far older. Fast underground rivers flow in the darkness, shaping limestone that dates back 450 million years, considered the oldest in Vietnam, 450 million years old. To give that number some scale, the dinosaurs appeared roughly 230 million years ago. The rock that forms the walls of this cave is twice as old as the first dinosaur that ever walked. The underground river that carved Sondong is still there. There is an underground river inside Sondong, which is a combination of the water coming from N Cave and K Rai Cave. From the cave entrance, you have to cross knee-deep rivers twice to reach the main passage. There are emergency bridges in case of high water levels. Small waterfalls along the way create loud rumbles. Sometimes the cave is filled with mist. The river carved a passage 9 kilometers long over 2 million years, and it is still flowing, still working, still slowly, incrementally making the cave larger with every season of rain. The constant cycle of condensation and precipitation gradually dissolves more limestone, slowly but surely making this giant cave even larger. Sundung is not a finished thing. It is a living geological process. It is still growing. Now, let us talk about the formations inside Sundung, because even by the standards of famous caves around the world, what grew inside this one over 2 million years is extraordinary. The cave contains spectacular calcite formations, including stalactites, stalagmites, columns, flowstones, and cave pearls. Some of the stalactites are enormous, reaching heights of over 80 meters. The world's tallest known stalagmite is in Sundung. It is called Hope and Vision. The stalagmite named Hope and Vision has a height of 80 meters, the tallest stalagmite in the world. 80 meters. That is taller than the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, standing on the floor of a cave. The cave pearls, which are spherical concretions of calcium carbonate, can be as big as baseballs. Cave pearls are formed when a drop of calcium-rich water falls repeatedly on the same spot over thousands of years. Each drop adds an infinitesimally thin layer of calcite. Over enough time, a perfect sphere builds up around a tiny grain of sand or a small piece of rock. The ones in Sundung are among the largest ever found anywhere on Earth. Cavers have discovered colossal cave pearls measuring 10 centimeters in diameter, which have been formed by millennia of drips, fusing calcite crystals with grains of sand. And then there is the Great Wall of Vietnam. The Great Wall of Vietnam is one of the most awe-inspiring features of Sundung. This imposing flowstone formation blocked the path of explorers during the 2009 expedition. At that time, no one knew what lay beyond this massive barrier. The Great Wall of Vietnam is a 90-meter-high wall of calcite that blocks the passage near the end of the cave. During the first survey, the caving team had to turn back because they could not overcome it. On the next expedition in 2010, with fully specialized caving equipment, they could finally overcome the wall to reach the exit of the cave. 90 meters of solid calcite, standing like a natural dam across the passage of the largest cave in the world. The first expedition team reached it, looked up at it, and had to retreat. They came back the following year with ropes and climbing gear, and when they finally topped it and came down the other side, they found the cave continuing. The passage goes on beyond the wall all the way to a second exit, where the underground world opens back up to the jungle and the sky. The nearly 100-meter-high stalagmite wall serves as the final natural barrier to exit Sundung. Its ascent requires advanced rock climbing techniques, underscoring the technical challenge and expertise needed to conquer this remarkable geological formation. Now let us talk about the animals in more detail, because the creatures that have adapted to life inside Sundung are among the most unusual organisms documented anywhere on Earth. There are species of fish living in the underground streams and pools. They have adapted to the eternal darkness inside the cave, becoming blind and lacking any pigment or coloration. Blind, colorless fish swimming in underground rivers that have not seen sunlight in 2 million years. Their eyes are not damaged. They simply did not develop. Over countless generations of evolution in the dark, an eye became something that cost energy to build and maintain and offered zero benefit. So evolution removed it. The result is fish whose faces are smooth and featureless where eyes would normally be. They navigate entirely by sensing pressure changes in the water and detecting chemical signals. The same logic applies to the cave spiders, the cave scorpions, the cave millipedes, all eyeless, all nearly or completely transparent, all highly sensitive to vibration and air pressure. Adaptation to the lightless environment has generated fascinating creatures such as transparent fish and eyeless crickets. These animals are not small or primitive. The cave spiders in particular can be large, with body adaptations that make them look like creatures from a completely different evolutionary lineage than their surface relatives. And yet, in the sections of the cave where the dolines let sunlight in, a completely different world operates. The jungle under the dolines has its own population of surface animals. Monkeys descend into the cave to eat. Birds nest in the transitional zones between light and dark. In areas where the forest dominates, monkeys descend through the openings to feed, while the phenomenon of clouds maintains constant humidity. Two completely separate ecosystems existing within the same cave. One adapted entirely to darkness and isolation. One connected to the surface world through shafts of light from above. They exist side by side, separated by a few hundred meters of cave passage. More than 250 species of endemic plants and animals live in this underground world, including 7 newly discovered species. 250 species. In a cave. This is not a sterile, empty underground space. It is a functioning biosphere, self-contained, self-sustaining, operating on its own rules, largely independent of the world above it. Millions of years of isolation have created a unique environment where countless species have adapted to near total darkness, high humidity, and limited nutrient availability. Scientific surveys have documented hundreds of plant and animal species, many of which remain poorly understood. The nutrients that sustain the deep cave ecosystems come from the rivers, which carry organic material from the surface world down into the darkness. The cave is not completely sealed from the outside, but the connection is narrow and filtered enough that the evolutionary pressures inside are entirely different from anything living on the surface. Let us also talk about what the British divers found more recently, because the cave turned out to be even bigger than anyone realized. During a groundbreaking dive, a trio of British divers discovered an underwater tunnel that connects Son Doong with another enormous cave called Hang Thung. The divers were the same people who aided in the rescue of the trapped soccer team in Thailand in 2018. These are not amateur explorers. These are some of the most experienced cave divers on the planet. And when they descended into a flooded pit inside Son Doong and found an underwater tunnel connecting it to another massive cave system, the implication was clear. Son Doong is not a single isolated chamber. It is part of a much larger underground network. The hidden passages that connect Son Doong to other caves hint at an even more extensive underground network beneath Phong Nha. Each expedition unveils new insights into its ancient rock formations, underground rivers, and potential for undiscovered life forms. And the network beneath these mountains is still mostly unknown. The 30% figure comes back here. If scientists have only mapped 30% of the limestone massif above, what they have found in Son Doong, extraordinary as it is, may be only a fraction of what is down there. Son Doong's biological richness continues to surprise researchers. These discoveries inspire further scientific interest and remind us that Son Doong Cave still holds secrets beneath its enormous chambers. There is one more thing worth knowing about Son Doong, something that separates it from most of the world's famous natural wonders. Access is extraordinarily restricted. Each year, the number of visitors is capped at 1,000 to ensure safety and preserve the cave's unique ecosystem. By 2024, an impressive 7,552 travelers from more than 50 countries had successfully completed the Son Doong expedition since tours began in 2014. 1,000 people per year. That is the maximum. Into the largest cave in the world. The expedition takes 5 days and requires significant physical fitness. From January 14 to 17, 2026, the production team of CBS 60 Minutes selected Son Doong Cave as the sole filming location for a large-scale, in-depth report dedicated entirely to the world's largest cave. Even one of the most established television journalism programs in the world needed special permission and extensive coordination to film inside Son Doong. The cave is not just restricted for tourism reasons. It is restricted because the ecosystem inside it is genuinely fragile. A footprint in the wrong place, a touch of the wrong crystal formation, contamination of the underground water by outside bacteria, any of these things could disrupt processes that took hundreds of thousands of years to develop. The Vietnamese authorities and the scientific community are trying to let humanity glimpse this world without destroying it in the process. Son Doong is a living, breathing ecosystem, one of the few places on Earth where you can witness nature completely on its own terms, operating according to rules it developed in isolation over millions of years. What makes Son Doong so difficult to fully absorb, even after reading everything about it, even after seeing the photographs, is that it is not the cave that defies nature. Nature made it. Nature built the clouds, grew the jungle, carved the rivers, formed the great wall of calcium on the cave floor, evolved the eyeless fish and transparent spiders. Nature did all of that, undisturbed, in the dark, over millions of years, while human civilization rose and fell on the surface above. What Son Doong defies is our assumption about what nature looks like. We think we understand what a cave is, a cold, dark, hollow space under the ground, mostly empty, occasionally interesting. Son Doong is not that. Son Doong is a world, a complete, self-sustaining, weather-making, jungle-growing, cloud-forming world, sealed under 200 meters of rock and operating entirely on its own terms. Scientists are eager to continue exploring Son Doong, pushing the boundaries of what we know about subterranean ecosystems and the geological history of Southeast Asia. And perhaps the most remarkable thing about it is this: with only 30% of the surrounding limestone massif mapped, with underwater tunnels still being explored, with new species still being found on every scientific survey, with the cave itself still actively growing as the river continues to carve the limestone, we do not actually know yet how large Son Doong truly is. We do not know how many more chambers exist beyond the ones we have found. We do not know how many more species are living in the darkness below the sections we have walked through. We found the largest cave in the world, and we still do not know where it ends. If that does not make you want to know more about what is hiding under the surface of this planet, I do not know what will. Subscribe for more stories like this. Leave a comment telling me which part of Son Doong surprised you the most. And if you know someone who would want to see this, share it with them. There is a world underneath our world. We are only just beginning to find it.